Thank you very much. I don't trust my memory that well, so I just start already from paper. Imagine 7.9 billion people, and none of these 7.9 billion people is the same. All these people are individuals with different backgrounds, different age, different height, different weight, different income, different IQ, different present, different past, different future. I was driving with my son on the highway on Saturday morning, and we were in a big lanes, and there are all cars around us. And my son was sitting next to me, and he remarked how strange that all these people are around us, and we do know nothing about them. They're just going there, and each one has their lives. They go to their places. They live their life. They go to their friends, to their families. Do their own thing, and we have no idea about them. And that made us think both at that moment, like how strange that is, that we in our car driving were there, and this was just one road, and only one road in the Netherlands, tiny spot, tiny moment. It was not Europe, it was not the world, it was only at that moment. And so everywhere in that same moment there were 7.9 billion people doing their own thing, and we know nothing about these people. But they are all individuals, and they have all their unique position in life, and their things that they do. They go to school, they go to work, they eat, they sleep. They all have their own thoughts and feelings like we have. So every individual is unique. However, also in a way very similar. Humans share more than 99.9% of their DNA with each other. So we seem to be different, however we are also very similar. We have 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with 2 ears, 2 eyes, hair more or less on top, a nose. And not only biologically are we the same, but also in less tangible ways. We look a lot like each other. Many of us think that we should be nice to people, that we should make a living, that we should do something fun once in a while, that we should get some excitement or get some peace of mind. Everybody has these. So these differences and similarities in our personalities are partly genetic. I hear something. Okay, I'll stand very still then. People can be more introvert or extrovert. They can be more neurotic or less neurotic. Everybody has their own character traits. And these traits, they form a part of our personality. They influence how we behave towards other people and how we behave in all different kinds of situations. However, these character traits are not the only thing that define us. Our personality has also another thing, and that is the way we feel about things. What are our values, our basic human values? Which things do we find important and which things do we find less important? So these basic human values influence everything we do in life. And I show you, if it works like this, a picture how that works. So everybody has this 10 values, and these 10 values, they form a kind of circle. And these values, they form the very basis of the things that we find important in life. And these values, we are not born with them, but we develop them once we grow up. So they develop from needs like eating and drinking, safety, but also from needs like having a good time with friends, with families, excitement, or developing yourself and using your brain. So all these things that we so we all want to be special. We want some respect from other people, and we want to use our brain once in a while. So especially when we are young, these values develop. If you grow up very poor, for instance, we're in need of food and water, that will make us feel that security is very important. However, if you're born in a wealthy place, in a safe place, then this value of security won't be that important, but you have some room to develop values that are achievement or self-direction or universalism. So we develop them when we are young, and when we get older, they become more stabilized. And we did research, and we investigated 1,600 people over 12 years, how they developed on these values that you see here. And yeah, we found out that you develop them more and more. You develop them most when you're young, and they develop less when you're more serious age. Then they start to stabilize. Some of these values will stay, will change a little bit, like security, but most of these values are set once you are an adult. So it's not only circumstances that define our values, like being in a secure environment or not, but also our friends and our family. We learn from them. So if we grow up in a family that values creativity and self-direction, we as kids will also think that these values of self-direction and creativity are important. And that is also the same for all the people around us, our friends, the people at our work. Everybody around us will rub a little bit of their values on us, and we rub a little bit of values back on them. So we develop some shared values there. So although we are all unique and special, of course, everybody is an individual, we also develop shared values. As you can see, these values, they form a circle. And the values that have more in common with each other, I can maybe show you, like self-direction, values that are close to the values of self-direction, they're more or less similar with each other. Well, values on the other side, like security, is very much opposing self-direction. And these values mean that if people score high on one side of this circle, if they score high on self-direction, they will score low on security. And that happens for all these values in the circle. So it's a trade-off between values that are more self-transcendent versus values that are more self-enhancement, or values that are more conservation-minded or more open to change. So if we like universalism more, we like achievement and power. On the other side, we like them less. And that goes for all the values on the circle. Interesting is that people, if they have the same values, they like each other better. So people tend to like people with the same values more than they like other people. So for instance, imagine somebody who's really scoring high on universalism. So that's really important for this person, and he goes separating waste, showering for maximum 2 minutes, traveling by bike, by train, all that. And now imagine somebody else or a group of people, and they really like to do their own thing. They want to have freedom, do the things they want. So this is quite an opposite value, as you can see. Yeah? So it's more the difference from that. And the first person will probably hate Formula One racing. They want to forbid it. While the other group, they're searching the internet and trying to get tickets for the event. So you imagine that these two groups, they don't go well together. So the differences in values make it also difficult for them to bond. The saying also goes, birds of a feather flock together. Interesting is that the research also showed that even musical taste is also connected to these values. So that people who have similar taste in music will also have similar values, and they will also like each other better. So these values, they form a way of groups, and groups have similar values. So that means also that any kind of group can be more or less defined by shared values. For instance, looking at countries, which are of course really large groups of people, you can also see that some countries are more on self-direction, and other countries are more, for instance, on security, tradition and conformity. And within these countries, we see also that people in countries like each other better than people from other countries. Especially when your soccer team is playing, you like your own people in your own country much better. So we can also use the human values as a way of characterizing cultural differences. Another thing that we have to understand is that bonding is in a group is a way to protect yourself. You have your in-group, which is safe and cozy, and people that have your in-group, they understand you and they have your back. And the people who are not in your in-group, they are your out-group. And these out-group, yeah, they're not so important, especially if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel secure. Your in-group becomes very important and your out-group becomes less important. So crossing bridges is much easier if you feel safe. Yeah? If you feel unsafe, you will hide in your in-group. Only if you feel safe, you will go to your out-group. So the question, going back to the talk of this, the theme of this talk, it's not just about bonding, but actually we want building bridges. So the question is, with this knowledge of values, how do we build better bridges? Well, first of all, we have to be aware that these values that we have, that are something that we can't escape, that it is something that is in ourselves, that it's our very basis, and we cannot really escape them and we cannot really change them. And once we realize that we cannot escape them and we cannot change them, other people also cannot escape them or change them. So if you understand that there's this mechanism inside ourselves that makes us have these values and influence our choices and our behavior, maybe that could appreciate that we all make different choices and have different behavior. So to conclude, how can we form bridges? Or maybe better, how do we cross the bridge that we want to build? Well, first of all, recognize that values are underlying our thoughts and behavior, and that these values, they come with the package. There is this little mechanism inside our brain. We developed them when we were still growing up, when we learned them, and now that we're grown ups, we're stuck with them. Second, we have to accept. Not only do we need to recognize that we have these values, but we also need to accept the fact that these other people have different values. Knowing that we did not choose our values could maybe help in accepting these differences. And also, a good thing is that although we have these differences, everybody has all the 10 values. It's just a question of different priorities in these values. And lastly, reach out. Think of your situation and compare that to the situation of the other person. How safe do you feel and how safe does the other person feel? If you are the one that feels most safe, maybe you should be the person that travels the bridge to the other side and reach out. So in 3 words, recognize, accept and reach out. Or to put it in a slogan, be rare. Thank you very much.